The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall continue to follow me all the days of this protracted experience of death. And I will dwell in the house of the most super intelligent, power, source, and force of love and creation forever. What's happening? Benton here, rolling out of the truck stop. Surprise, surprise. Where are we? Oakley, Kansas. Headed to the Denver area. Should be there, what, 3.5 hours or so? And I have some things to yap about from my so-called life. This so-called life. Or some spiritual / philosophical topics. Unsure where to begin. Bear with me while we get onto the interstate here. I'm going the wrong way. What is this? Oh, okay. Sometimes the GPS is confused. I see. The GPS is confused. My right wrist quite sore from yesterday. Heavy winds. I saw 2 different tractor trailers blowed over, although I'm not sure when that would have occurred. Apparently, I-70 was closed just west of here much of the day, but reopened. The winds died down at least to a level to where I wasn't too worried about getting blowed over. And at a certain point, remembered that it can be a little easier to drive in high winds if I put the trailer tandems all the way to the rear. So did that. Smooth sailing. Not entirely sure what we're doing today. Parts of the plan I've been made aware of. And while we're warming up, while the royal we warms up, because I do need to hit some of these spiritual topics. And if there's even a replay crew anymore, and if there's long-time listeners to yours truly and the channel, some may know that on some level, from my own perspective, it's all about me. Right. And for several, if not many years now, it's been about Benton's health, healing, recovery from chronic illness, which has been such an ongoing, again, protracted, lengthy process that for quite some time it appeared like old Benton wasn't going to make it physically. And I think perhaps there had been some confusion in that respect. I would say that as a person who's effectively tapped into and utilized the power of his mind for much, if not most, of his life or my life. Again, that's a breakfast cereal. Mikey likes it. This protracted experience of death, transcendence of death, in inverted world, born to die, right? In reality, it seems to be at least the potential for a process within the context of delusion and illusion of transcending the process of death, meaning to move beyond the limitations, which is the Christ story in many ways, as far as I can tell, proving that death can't touch what I am in the context of a vacuous, illusory, adversarial realm of business transactions. Because this place ain't shit, y'all. Or in inverted world, it is shit. Literal shit. This world ain't shit. And if what I am could be defeated by this bullshit realm, this crossroad, a heaven or hell realm, mostly manifesting as a hell realm, at least presently amongst the air quotes, or within a quote timeline, time, space, location, place, which can only exist at the level of waking dreams, surrealistic, unreality, deja vu all over again. That must be resolved or solved for equationally, mathematically, in so-called reality. That's quite the Russian nesting dolls of context, sir. Indeed, indeed. Lots of cans of worms. But yes, the transcendence of death, the only way out is through, and that is the protracted experience. And so within all of those contexts and more, the experience of the healing of the flesh, which in some ways, would that not require disease or a so-called disease or state of illness? Not that that's an end goal. And again, the only way out is through. Same thing with the chronic illness. The medical system, obviously, this is one of the myriad of reasons I say there's no such thing as common sense. Because obviously, and I've lost my point. Apologies. Oh, well, there's plenty of points to be made. It's just as well. We're just warming up. The royal. Got our egg yolk drink at the ready. We're doing fine. And yes, this realm, could it defeat? If this realm had any possibility whatsoever to defeat what I am, would not that have happened by now? And that also extends into Benton, the performer, in the context of the performance, because the essence or nature of the performer also cannot be destroyed by this play. Or again, surely it would have happened by now. And oh yes, the medical system, clearly and obviously based on medical coding and billing, not returning or restoring the patient to a state of sound health. In fact, within the protracted experience of death in the vacuous, delusory, adversarial realm of business transactions, world of death, game of lies, that which makes an enemy of what I am, in fact, makes a business clearly out of ensuring that as many individuals as possible remain in a state of poor health. And why wouldn't it? The flesh is dead anyway. Render unto Caesar, let the dead bury the dead. You want your taxes, Caesar? Well, you're going to have to get them out of my bank account. And if you feel, if Caesar feels entitled to something beyond that, I suppose he can take it out of the dead flesh here, buddy. So I'll happily render unto Caesar, for this flesh has no value. Just like the dead money has no value. Now, yes, within the context of dreams, surrealistic, unreality, deja vu all over again, it seemingly spins, right? By the rules of the game of lies, the world of death, old Benton here, at least for the time being, has need of eating nutritious food, ingesting certain compounds such as medicinal mushroom. Not strictly a need, I suppose, but it certainly helps. And then to bring it back to the selfish arena, on some level, and this is the part I wanted to note for a long time, listeners of the channel, both live and replay crew, it's all about old Benton on some level. All the comments are directed at me, whether they are or not. Topically, this is all connected to me. This is my world from my own perspective in many ways. Not in a vacuum, not across the board, in many ways. What's happening here is about Benton, and almost to the exclusion of all else. For the only potential power graspable and the only potential meaning of substance is contained within me, and it's not even contained there. That's within the context of time, space, location, place. Again, not even wholly real. See? Do you see the layers of deception? Can the listener begin to grasp the depths of deception, lies, trickery, and foolishness, and so powerful, cunning, and multifaceted are the snares of the so-called enemy, which is not even the enemy. It's a phenomenon that makes an enemy of what I am. The inverse would be to say, okay, well, here's poor little Benton, foisted into this world, and it's become quite adversarial out of the gate, seemingly. And, the idea of other or enemy. Well, no, that's not correct. That's an inversion. It's this place that never is completely real or has lacking substance, lacking authority, lacking abundance, makes an enemy of what I am, for what I am symbolically and real in the concept of actual reality is the real thing, is supreme authority, is creation, is expansion, the way, the truth, the light. It is all of that, a bag of chips, and more. That's what it is. And anybody's opinion, any individual's opinion, is largely irrelevant, or only relevant to the degree in which Benton is willing to allow it to seem relevant. And what Benton has allowed to seem relevant for the last couple of days is the possibility of various systems within the realm that I myself consider to be a crossroads, because it seems to me that spiritually the being can travel to so-called heaven or so-called hell from this place. Again, within the Russian nesting dolls of context previously mentioned. And old Benton has managed to, and again, apologies for the graphic nature of the bodily functions, the constipation of the large intestine or colon, and the context being Benton eats properly. Benton gets real, actual food. Yes, it's low quality food because the food in America is largely low quality, certainly. But it's compared to the standard American diet, Benton's getting real, actual, whole food. Day in and day out. He's getting fiber. He's getting quality water. He's getting mostly proper rest. The only lacking thing would be, yes, more walking would be nice. So when constipation occurs, now what is this? This is an inability to let go. What causes an inability to let go? It's a refusal to accept. What leads to a refusal to accept? Because let's not forget what I am is acceptance. This world is rejection, or more correctly, the lack of acceptance. So only by too strongly identifying with the potential validity or, quote, realness of this realm of so-called rejection, which is actually lack of acceptance, only by too strongly identifying with this world, now the being is refusing release, because the being is attaching to a phenomenon where it's to treat one's blessing as if it were a curse to do that, and which then creates a spiritual, mental, and physical condition of, hey, there's fecal matter in the colon. Hey, buddy, are you going to allow that to leave? Like, what are you doing? Bozo. And so this morning, waking up and going through the process of saying, okay, well, what is causing this condition? And then surprise, surprise, within 15 to 20 minutes of resolving the condition within oneself spiritually and mentally, then the physical release occurred. And how long has Benton been talking about on this channel? It's all about the alignment within the individual, the so-called sphere of influence or energy sphere of the individual. It's all about the alignment, mind, body, spirit, and the ascension or lifting up, right? And, people can have an opinion about chakra systems and things of the like. I'm talking about energies that Benton works within himself to conceptualize on the basis of a spine and a chakra system. That's helpful. So Benton has effectively worked with those concepts. And then we also get into the proper circulation of the energies of the lower chakras, which that's one thing when the sexual energies are high. It's one thing to circulate those sexual energies throughout the system. And Benton seemingly mastered that many years ago. However, the sexual energies were much higher for old Benton back then. So now what Benton is seeing is that even further beyond the lower levels of mastery in this regard is the mastery of the more subtle energies of, okay, well, what if the sexual thoughts, the sexual energies are less? Can the being, because now the being may forget and neglect those energies, which perhaps has led to this. And that's where the system, that's where Moloch's machine, that's where this world of death and game of lies will use any and all potential anything this place can use in forming a weapon against what I am to see that that weapon may prosper, it will use. It's quite resourceful in that way. And so how quickly Benton was able to go back to circulating the energies properly, but not until realizing what? The error of his ways, and what? Confess, repent, seek forgiveness, and forgive. And really, it's not even a seeking of forgiveness. Accept forgiveness, actually, by acknowledging, oh, what I am is forgiveness. So stop creating a blockage to within myself between blocking what I am. The subversion of my own creative force, creating a blockage within me, blocking me from my own energies for my own benefit on behalf of me because of this system of things and its own, being able to sink its hooks into my own systems due to being sacrificed to Moloch out of the gate, Moloch's machine of industrial and post-industrial society, and then having been given a psyche that's designed a system for the system on behalf of the system to suit the system's purpose. And the purposes of the system making an enemy of what I am. That's what each of us is engaged in, whether we know it or not. If other beings are what I am, Nancy Pelosi, meaning possessed of or apprehending Nancy Pelosi's MS-13 spark of divinity, aka this little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine, which is mockery. Nancy Pelosi's mockery, and the mockery and ridicule as well as that of that song. Because look, they've forgotten. If all individuals are that thing, the real thing, they've forgotten what they are. Forgive them, for they know not what they do. Well, what they are is that forgiveness. See? So the realm says, sure, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And while heavily implying that the forgiveness is to be sought outside of themselves, well, guess what? The forgiveness can never be experienced outside of oneself within the context of time, space, location, place. Thus, the individual goes on in error. To continue on in error. And thus, at least to temporarily thwart and defeat oneself. And so when I listen to channels like Millennial Steam, when I listen to channels like Tragic Reality and others, I'm listening to the thoughts and ruminations and laments of individuals who don't know what they are, and lacking that knowledge of self, don't know where they are, and on some level don't know what the fuck is going on, or at least, yeah, they understand some of what's going on. They are unable to get the full picture, and this is not to denigrate them or to put them down. It's to say, hey, folks, you're on the right track. Pretty pleased with sugar on top. I trust that you will keep going. And now part of Benton's own constipation of late has been Benton's own attachment to Benton's own desire to be helpful to such individuals, although not those individuals specifically, but to individuals who may potentially uncover within themselves a desire to grow, change, transform, transcend, whether individually or externally, because it seemed to me like many individuals, myself included, will first come to conclusions and they will want to team up, say, hey, let's all wake up, click up, Team America style and fix dystopia. Well, that ain't possible. What is also not possible is, yes, maybe individuals will seek out a Benton as not guru, but as a resource someone who's farther along a progression towards uncovering the perfected path that lies within, if indeed it does lie within those individuals. Perhaps it does. And so Benton attaching to a desire, and once the desire exists, now the individual is willing to forget about the part where Benton doesn't control that. Benton has no power, influence. Benton has nothing to do whatsoever with will he be sought out. And to seek to force himself or to even offer his services, well, that's not appropriate. For what I am does not do those. What I am performs, struts out onto stage in the context of performance and performs. And whatever the audience reacts, however the audience reacts. And Benton, the performer, in the context of the performance, accepts their reactions, whatever they are. And that is the taking of all beatings. Because without the attachment of desire, there is no beating. There are no tomatoes being hurled. And as we see with Benton in the context of employment, isn't it nice to kick back, relax for a few days and not chase Benton's tail? Well, not really. Because how is it any different than when Benton has been chasing his tail for, I don't know, a month? In some ways, Benton being self-flagellating and being able to drive himself forward as a beast of burden, Benton being able to kick his own ass, I don't know, parts of what I am prefers to chase his own tail. And I don't even mean what I am when we talk about super intelligent force of power and love. I'm talking more about the really what I'm talking about is the parts of the dead flesh experientially that old Benton seems to prefer, or that Benton has trained himself to sort of respond favorably to, right? Because if I'm here working, part of me, or part of the dead flesh, or part of the psyche, or part of, you know, the parts psychologically and energetically that do, you know, to craft an identity on an ongoing, perpetual basis that exists in relation to this realm, which is what each of us must do to function and not go insane. And that is ego, folks. That is ego. If you read a psychology book or two, what I just described is ego and id and superego and the whole thing. And the purpose of that within psychology is to describe and categorize those functions. That's what it is. And Benton here is a lay expert in psychology, both his own and societies and other individuals, certainly. So really, and from the perspective of the philosophies that Benton is elucidating here, and again, I am part of the audience as well. Benton is also part of the audience. So, you know, in the context of the discourse, it's really not supposed to be any different. So if Benton is attaching more to the struggle and attaching less to the relative ease of the last 4 to 5 days, it's the same error. We're getting into preference. So now it's like, okay, Benton, if you're going to fall into error, which form of desire and attachment do you prefer, sir? And Satan's system, this realm of wickedness, world of death, game of life, says, well, it doesn't care which one I choose. It just says, aha, we got him. Because now he's attaching via desire. We've got him. And then what I am, the quickening spirit says, well, no, you don't, because what I am can always quicken the spirit. And when the weapon forms and it seeks to prosper by firing at a missile, or attacking spiritually, Benton quickens his own spirit and moves beyond the reaches. And Benton has found prayer by, for, and with the power and meaning in the name of the Lord Christ Jesus. Let's be specific. What is that, sir? The resurrection and ascension of the risen Christ within me. So Christ being crucified, executed for sedition on the cross by the state of, then afforded the opportunity of transcending a physical death, then being entombed, right? So they say, well, Benton, you're not entombed. What are you talking about? Is not Benton entombed within the tomb of the dead flesh? Is Benton not speaking to you from the confines of the dead flesh? Is that not a tomb? So the Lord Christ Jesus, executed for sedition by the state of, entombed. What did Christ do after placed in the tomb? He traveled the underworld. What has Benton been doing? How is Benton now describing this so-called life? He's calling it a protracted experience of death, or what? To travel the underworld, or a underworld. So what is ascension? So it's the uncovering of the perfected path that lies within, accepting, getting out of one's own way, removing the blockages that Moloch's machine has put in place and taught the individual to treat their blessing as if it were a curse by blocking the ascension and resurrection of the risen Christ within, which is the default state, or is supposed to be the default state of what I am. My cup runneth over, the continuous renewing of the Spirit, worshiper and object of worship contained within the same space, within the context of time, space, location, place, within vacuous, delusory, adversarial realm of business transactions. That what you are now listening to is the practice of ascended spiritual mastery. I am that one. To the victor go the spoils. What I am is the victor. What I am is the way. What I am is the truth. What I am is the life. No one comes unto true knowledge itself except through Christ consciousness, the uncovering and walking of the righteous perfected path that lies within, aka the ascension of the risen Christ within. That's what it is. That is what Christianity is supposed to be. And that's what Christianity can never be in the external. For Christianity can never represent that in the external, for there's no potential for external meaning. Therefore, what I just described, which is the highest forms of meaning, that can never be external. Only within the context of delusion and illusion. That's only possible internally. And no body can say any words. No individual can get a consensus. No individual can appeal to a peanut gallery and change that one iota. That's power over the power. And however my vocal tones manifest changes nothing. Oh, listen to his vocal tone. He sounds this type of way. He sounds that type of way. While evil itself whispers sweet nothings into your ear. And the sounds of righteousness. Well, maybe we don't prefer those tones. Not my problem. Hashtag deal with it. Or no. And the reality is, this is not a time or a place where there is receptivity to these levels of teaching. Thankfully, there is a student. Who is the student? Benton. Benton as master and student. Worshipper and worshipee contain, well, that's not correct. Worshipper and object of worship contained within the same space. Student and teacher, master and servant. Master and servant. So there is receptivity within. Why would Benton look externally for receptivity? That's another error of desire, attachment, and false identification. A short lesson today, indeed. Shout out to the chat. Peace, respect, greetings. Hang loose. Hand signs. Yes. Because yes, high vibing is part of the puzzle, but not without the grounding of what? The negative pole, the grounding, which is the power, right? Electrically, the power, the grounding of what? The individual learning and teaching themselves to unrepress and teaching themselves to not repress, that is toxic positivity. Toxic positivity is the process of repression, which only occurs via the subversion of the creative force of what I am. And it always harms the individual. Always. And Moloch's machine is involved in those processes as well. Certainly. So yes, the high vibes is appropriate if the individual understands to simultaneously utilize the negative forms of grounding via, will make sure not to allow the positivity and the high vibes to be subverted into repression and stagnation and attachment and resentments. No tolerance for that. It's not allowed. It's got to go. All forms of codependency. That's codependency within oneself. There's enough performers, performances, context, energies, perspectives, spirits within delusion, within time, space, location, place. There's enough influence to create codependencies or to enable codependence without even involving oneself with other individuals. Isn't that interesting? So easily, Benton might fool himself into thinking, well, Benton isn't codependent. Well, Benton historically, well, that's a blind spot for him. Better get my own proverbial house in order. Again, mind, body, and spirit. Well, I guess that's what I needed to cover spiritually this morning. So whatever we choose to cover, whatever the royal we chooses to cover beyond that. Now, I do think it's important for the listener to realize old Benton here is capable of breaking down to the most minute detail, each component, individual aspect of every piece of that discourse. There's a lot of meat on those bones. There's a lot to unpack there, to trot out a well-worn cliche. And so that's what I mean by this is the advanced course. So kudos to the listener. Kudos to the live listeners and the replay crew for being amongst the very few who have a brain that's capable of entertaining these notions in a parabolic or parable, right? It works on many levels simultaneously. So hashtag get on my level. Well, is not my level all levels? It's all levels simultaneous. That's what the grounding is. That's what the learning and teaching to not repress is. It's to not operate merely at the highest levels. It's to operate simultaneously on all levels, right? Or at least to have the knowledge of all levels. And now you get into the idea of the garden and the so-called knowledge of good and evil, right? The tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Well, if Adam and Eve were Jack from Jack and the Beanstalk and so in tune and one with their own high vibing nature, well, what did the serpent do? The serpent, through Eve, grounded her, right, in a way in which she was not proficient in practicing and operating due to her own ignorance. For Jack from Jack and the Beanstalk being unable to conceptualize potential catastrophes and thus unable to understand and heed the warnings of the family and the villagers. So actually, the story and the origin of Jack from Jack and the Beanstalk is actually partially the story of Eve from the Garden of Eve. How could she have a context for that? The serpent showed her the way to grounding her own energies, but without the understanding, without the framework, why? Of course she fell into error, false identification. Of course she did. And then Adam, not having a way to punish or conceptualize correcting of Eve, woman, what are you doing? Don't you know this is forbidden? Well, was it forbidden? What does that even mean? Have you considered my servant Job? For what I am can't be defeated by any of this in the first place. Might as well buy the ticket, take the ride. Maybe Eve did know what she was doing on something. I don't know. And this is, speaking within the context of the story that, we were given. But then in grounding, in being grounded and then beginning to identify with those lower levels, right? Now here comes desire and all of these things. And attachment. Proven out by Adam hiding and the hiding of the genitalia. See? The energies of the lower chakras that presumably were perfectly circulating within the systems of the individuals. Because remember, we're already in the context of delusion. If we've got an Adam and we've got an Eve, we're already in delusion. Because outside of the context of delusion, there is only the most super intelligent power, source, and force of love. But in order to have that thing or something, there must be, that must represent assertion. That must represent proposition. There must be, the moment there's proposition or assertion or thesis, there must be its inverse, its opposite, its anti-thesis. So when people want to say, oh, there's going to be antichrist, oh, there is antichrist. You think you're living in it. It's called this world. And so that's what I mean when I say this is seeming to be a crossroads. You can go to heaven. The being can go to heaven or to hell. The being can go to the heavenlies, or the being can go to the underworld. The being can dive into the depths of the flesh, underworld. The being can transcend and move beyond the seeming limitations of the flesh and ascend to the heavens. Via what? Christ consciousness, meaning true knowledge of self / self-realization, to understand and know that what I am is the way, what I am is the truth, what I am is the life. To know it, not to suspect, not to fake it till I make it, not to follow doctrine, not to follow another man, not to Jack Talcott one's own way to that conclusion. No. To patiently accept, wait around, take the beatings, accept the slings and arrows, accept the mockery and the ridicule, to walk the path and walk the path, to dig within oneself, to uncover and uncover and uncover while never fully knowing that the perfected path, the perfected righteous path may lie within, trusting, and in fact saying, well, I don't know if it lies within, but if it's there, I will find it, which is another part of the Christ story. I didn't choose you, or more correctly, you didn't choose me, I chose you. Meaning that perfected righteous path is there. That's the choosing. That's the being chosen. What I am is that chosen one or chosen thing. Again, this is ascended mastery, but so what? It's not Benton as ascended mastery. It's Benton as flawed, in the flesh human, driving a big rig, accruing tax liability. And maybe there'll be a court case one day and they'll levy the charges, and I'll say, that's what you say. Now, I'm here to render unto Caesar, let the dead bury the dead. Here's the flesh. Take whatever portions of it you feel you're entitled to. For by the law, I will render unto Caesar in Caesar's kingdom within delusion, within a world of death and a game of lies, within the context of delusory adversarial realm of business transactions. What I am can choose seemingly to access Federal Reserve notes, to continue to walk the righteous perfected path that lies within, and perhaps one day will transcend the limitation of transacting in money altogether. We ain't there yet. We ain't there yet, royally. Maybe one day. Don't know. Remains to be seen. But if the government comes along and levies some charge akin to sedition, I will just say, well, what did Christ say in the Bible? Christ said, the servant is not greater than the master. You've seen what they've done to me. What do you think they're going to do to little bit in this context? Meanwhile, Christ also said, I don't call you servant, I call you friend. I'm as much a servant of Christ as Christ is a servant of what I am. See how it works? Same motherfucking thing, Jack. Believe that or don't. So what you gonna tell me? Gathering my thoughts, novelty. Thank you for your patience. And all roads lead to power. So what do we see in the so-called truth community with an interesting channel called Modern Men Lost Again? You want to talk about truth in advertising. And, this is certainly previous iterations of Benton. So, these are critiques. But power over the power is a recognition that the human is a seeker of power. That's just what it is. And that's what we see in the so-called truth community, whether folks know it or not, whether they accept it or not. What seems to be that all individuals have in common is that they all operate within and respond to power dynamics via personality, status quo, social contract, conformity to peer groups, in-group, out-group dynamics, and on and on and on. And yes, Benton himself subjected himself to a great deal of this and reserves the right to do so again. So this is not meant as a criticism necessarily of Landry, the content creator. It's an acknowledgement that to align it with the correct philosophy of Krishnamurti from his seminal work, The First and the Last Freedom, which was a great resource for yours truly in the past and continues to be. Thank you, Mr. Krishnamurti. This is not a problem unless Landry doesn't understand that Landry is seeking power where it cannot be accessed, which is outside of himself. Now, can creative force be subverted into the external to then create and wield and utilize and wield power over others? Yes, but only within a dead contextual meaning of what? Man will dominate man unto man's own injury. That's the seeking of external power, or the wielding of external power, which isn't even possible in all contexts. And is certainly, I would say, I would judge or condemn as inappropriate. What I am would judge as inappropriate. And now, what do you mean by judge or condemn as inappropriate? Meaning beyond redemption within the context of worshiper and object of worship contained within the same space. Meaning that whatever can't prove itself to be worthy of redemption within that process of cup runneth over and the continuous renewing of the spirit, it always cycles to the grounding levels of the lower levels. It proves itself useful. Inverted world wants to invert the power structure to make the negative pole seem like the power and make the positive pole seem like it's opposite or inverse. So if I have an automobile and I want to disconnect the power supply, do I disconnect the power, the plus Or do I disconnect what we call the negative or the minus? Go to your user's manual, your owner's manual. It will tell you in order to temporarily disconnect the battery, you want to disconnect the black cable, the negative, the minus, and leave the positive in place in order to cut off the rest of the vehicle from its own supply of electricity. Because the grounding via the negative is necessary for the energies to circulate throughout the system. It's a requirement, you see. So what we have within the context of delusion, within the context of the garden, within the context of Adam and Eve as discrete beings, is beings who, in their own separations, energetically, the energy circulating weren't grounded properly. Because when properly grounded, Eve would have already understood this so-called knowledge of the tree of good and evil. Which some would say actually is, the fruit of that tree is sexuality and the so-called when the flesh feels good, the sensation, right? Whether the sensation of a male via genitalia or the sensation of a female via genitalia, right? And the associated energies. Whereas the integrated being, the grounded being, the integrated being will already have that knowledge and will have worked with those energies. And this quickly becomes a lie of so-called gurus or cult leaders or masters, so-called, who end up having sex with all of the fertile women in the cult or whatever they're into. Because after all, those sensations will exist and must be dealt with. Well, it turns out my own subconscious deals with all of that in my dreams. So what's the fucking difference? And then the physical happens, at a minimum level when it needs to happen. What's there to do beyond that? Nothing. Because this is low level. This is not a means to an end, right? Benton is most likely not going to be bringing new people into all of this. So it's neither here nor there. Surprise, surprise, it's neither here nor there in the context of old Benton's protracted experience of death when it was a major part for many years. I'd say from almost interrupted from age 15 right up until about age 40. Effectively daily activity. More often than not. Not to brag, but generally involved the flesh of others. Or at least, no reason to really get into that. On a regular basis. Well, such entanglements are no longer desirable. So, such as when meeting the woman at the shipper recently, or the shipper, and experiencing the powerful attraction of the flesh. Well, part of that is also the knowing that almost always when I experience such a powerful attraction, she is also experiencing that same powerful attraction. This is just how this works. See? And what would have potentially brought the two together, it now repels. See? Isn't that interesting? So Eve's own attraction to eating a fruit, well, that same being in a different context would be repelled by the idea if that fruit represented sexuality, would actually be repelled. See? My first thought was, I got to get away from this one. If he even had a reaction to get away from the serpent, or to trod the serpent underfoot. So I know everything I need to know about Eve in that context of that story, and I know everything I need to know about Adam in the context of that story, and the serpent, of course. And all of this exists within the context of an indivisible force, the kingdom of so-called air quotes God. God is love, and the kingdom of air quotes so-called God is within me. And if it's within you, well, that's none of my business, because the moment Benton seeks to make that his business, that's step one of creating a cult. That's what that is. Well, we ain't finna do that. Nope. So the reality is, much like in some of the Eastern stories of, the word gets out, some young whippersnapper wants to become a ascended spiritual master, gets word of, well, there's an ascended master in the area. Oh, okay, who is he? Blah blah blah. How can I find him? Well, go to this town, in this area of town, seek him out. Seeks out the master. The master says, says to the master, I need to follow you and all of this. Will you accept me as initiate and all of this? Oh yeah, sure. Okay, well, great. Where do we start? Well, we're living under that bridge and as beggars. So, we're going to find you a beggar's bowl, and, we're this time of the morning, we mostly just hanging out, meditating, chillaxing, and then, later on, we're going to go appear publicly and see what, if anything, gets placed into the bowl today. Right. And maybe we're going to do whatever work is available. Historically, that seems to be involved in being a beggar in the streets and remaining outside of the jail, because historically, apparently, vagary, or to be a vagrant, is illegal. Now that the Nazi prison camp dystopia soft gulag has progressed / regressed to the degree of the current hellscape, can one just go more or less freely live in the streets to some extent and not be in jail? Now, at this point, one would pretty much need to move to the West Coast overall to accomplish this in the long run. And even then, you're probably looking at Los Angeles or San Francisco, maybe Seattle, although that's probably too physically dangerous, Seattle and Portland. You're probably looking at LA realistically. And even then, the being's going to need to know how to conduct themselves appropriately, as to not get dealt with. And so that's my ace in the hole. Used to be truck driving. Now Benton drives a truck, and his ace in the hole is I can always get on a flight to Los Angeles with my real ID, which is now a requirement for domestic travel. And I said no to the real ID because Arkansas allowed it. Meanwhile, I had already accepted it because my first commercial driver's license was in Texas, a state that required the real ID. I'm sure there's some way around it, but the way I was living, in fact, I had to get a caseworker at the Salvation Army to swear an affidavit and take the affidavit to a notary public, and I had to give that document to the state to say, well, I'm actually, Benton is a resident of Texas, so can I please have a CDL, because Goodwill sent me to truck driving school, and I need a commercial learner's permit. Because unlike those who've been brought here from other countries, Benton went through the official process, which doesn't make Benton any better or worse. It means, in fact, Benton was subjected to way more scrutiny as a truck driver. I was scrutinized, harassed, inspected, and subjected to the rules a lot more harshly and diligently. Now Benton's working for a company that's mostly choosing to work within the rules while still using gray areas to break them in certain ways, and also to bend them to maximum. Meanwhile, every time I pull into a weigh station that's open, I'm pretty surprised that I'm not pulled in for an inspection. Well, part of that is they're now pulling in the foreign drivers for inspection. Now, surprise, surprise, here I am working for a foreign company, Eastern Europeans, who are beginning to understand that they must also bend to my own will in certain ways, because there are certain things I'm simply not going to do, which is, yeah, I will happily, not get proper sleep here and there, but most nights of the month, I'm going to sleep at a proper hour. If they don't like it, I don't, too bad. Because I can always get on a plane to LA with enough money in my pocket to arrange my affairs to where I'll be able to do whatever I do. So back to the example of if an initiate wanted to apprentice under an ascended master, well, they're going to have to go get a CDL. They're going to have to live in my truck and team drive a big rig. And they're going to have to volunteer for that. I'm not seeking them out. Now, probably that won't happen. And just like the initiate, there's a decent chance the initiate lives under the bridge for a week and says, fuck this, and goes back to their old life. Well, maybe somebody gets a CDL and gets enough experience to team drive with me and doesn't quit, and then smells my physicality enough to say, okay, fuck this, we're out. And this is already limited space, and Benton tends to dominate whatever space he inhabits. It's just how that goes. Not on purpose. So in some way, it's like, yeah, you're living under the master's bridge. And all the master's going to say is, well, you're free to fuck off and team drives. You're free to fuck off and go drive solos. I don't know what to tell you. Part of me prefers to be the only one in the truck anyway. No real desire to team drive. And now we have the spiritual attack of yesterday, which was the spiritual attack of where I delivered the load and the way the property was laid out. And in attempting to deliver a day early, not jiving, my arrival not jiving with the activities of the location, and then fitting myself into, their program without getting agitated or, frustrated or annoyed, or more correctly, experiencing all of that and transcending it. The only way out is through. But then again, utilizing the power and meaning in the name of the Lord Christ Jesus by affirming, by saying this out loud in the closet of the big rig, by, for, and with the power and meaning in the name of the Lord Christ Jesus, protected and delivered from wicked spirits, unclean spirits, and demonic spirits by uncovering and walking the perfected path that lies within. Part of which was to be able to back the rig up without every single person who's putting an eyeball on me. Because the fact is, People can say till they're blue in the face that all these other truckers come here and hit that dock no problem. Oh, I know a lot of truckers do, and a lot of truckers come here and it takes them a fucking hour, and they cuss, and people come and try to give them tips, and we have multiple conversations about it. And Benton's, part of what Benton, in the context of neurodivergent performance as well, Benton will just say, well, it turns out I'll fall into sort of my own retardation, idiot savant style and say, well, I'm able to do this, but the more y'all try to intervene, the less likely it is that I will be able to do that. And the times I failed to do it was not Benton's failure of performance. It was Benton's failure via false identification. It was a spiritual defeat temporarily, although in the long run it was not a spiritual defeat, but it was a temporary spiritual defeat by allowing temporarily the weapon of the staff and their spiritual attacks. So this place, they're keeping an eyeball on me while I'm very deliberately and slowly going through a process of step by step hitting the stock and, communicating, hey, just so y'all know, I'm a little retarded. I'm going to do this, but it might take a little longer and it might look a little funky compared to what you're used to seeing, but it's going to happen. Just bear with me. And to their credit, they were able to do these things. Now, if they were more strongly identified with evil and more grounded, energetically, more lower level energetically, see that they wouldn't have been able to do anything. They would have had to attack me, just like the guy at that one delivery said, try to tell me it's easy. I said, well, maybe I'm just retarded. He said, yeah, maybe. I said, hey, it's within the realm of possibility. Right. And that's to accept. See, and that's also to transcend those attacks. Well, hey, buddy, you can't hurt me. So do your worst. Demons, do your worst. Demons, do your worst. Have you considered my servant Job? Have you considered our servant Job? Have you considered our servant Ben? Have you considered our servant Christ? Or Jesus of Nazareth? Nazareth, perhaps. Render unto Caesar. Let the dead bury the dead style. And this is the value of the donations. If anybody feels like donating, and I'm not soliciting that, I'm saying that having an income, it's more likely that I will choose to spend another $45 next month on StreamYard, because StreamYard facilitates these broadcasts because I get to have my earbuds in my ear, which I almost always have my earbuds in my ear anyway. And it's way easier and more convenient, quickly and easy to schedule the live streams through StreamYard. And, I think we all prefer the old vibrating icon. And if I'm going to turn the camera on, and the battery use is way better than the YouTube app, and I can do it on my main phone without trying to have the hotspot. So it works better all around for what we're doing here, right? Either way, No biggie. So back to Landry and Modern Men Lost Again, a channel that I appreciate, although I'm oftentimes lost and unable to really follow along because, and it's been a bit of an epiphany for yours truly this morning, recognizing exactly why I'm often repelled by the personality politics dynamics as I am potentially, and not me, but as Benton is seemingly attracted or has been attracted in the past, provably through my own actions and what I've responded to energetically. And that is power seeking. And now we see, number one, the truth community shows itself to be what it is. Because apparently, and I had no knowledge of this, that Landry being a resident of the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and there's a famous content creator known as Alex Stein, who earns and has earned and continues to earn a great deal of money as a content creator. And remember, folks, this world only measures in money and power, of course, but at the levels of the proletariat, the unwashed masses, mostly only measures in money or death. Let the dead bury the dead, render unto Caesar, right? Money as death, as the currency or a currency of death or within death, right? So if I drop a $20 bill on some rando here and there, I'm really not giving them anything. I mean, really, if you think about it, it's like, I guess you could call that generosity. Oh, I send my mom $50 on occasion. It's frivolous. And I don't know if you've read the meaning of the term frivolous. It's not positive, or it's not entirely positive. Frivolity. But it really is frivolous. It's an undertaking of frivolity. It's, hey, there's a woman. Here's a guy. It's 20 degrees outside of St. Louis. Here's a fella taking out the trash at the TA at 2 a.m. It's windy. He's bundled up. Hey, man, here's $20. It's frivolous. It doesn't really have a meaning, because unless I take home time, I'm getting how many of those $20 bills a week? What's the math on that? 17 times 5? 85 of those? Okay, here's 1/85th of what they're paying me this week in dead currency, in the currency of death. I don't know. Does that even realistically, that really doesn't even have a meaning. And death, again, what is the death? What is the meaning of death? Take the measure of death. See, if I gave him my entire paycheck, would it have meaning? Well, at the level old Benton is performing at, you're damn right it would. It would seem to, but in the final analysis, would it have a meaning? No, not really. Measurably different? Well, within a context. To a billionaire? No. In the context of the finances of the trucking company? No. In the context of Benton being able to feed himself? Most likely not. Would it be better spent other ways? Perhaps. Send it to mom. And that is something that could spread, Now it's not just the woman at the fuel desk at 5 a.m. when I'm walking out of the building. I see her face. It's like, yeah, might as well. I drop a 20 on her. Here you go, Merry Christmas. She's like, well, that was unexpected. Yeah, I know. That's half the reason I did it. Have a nice day. Whatever. And, the more that spreads, if she does her own version of that, see, the seed that's planted there is she may recognize that, well, it really if he lives in a truck, has limited opportunity to spend his money, doesn't have a mama to send it home to and kids to pay for and a house and all these things, car and bills. Well, she has a version of that she can do, you know. She may run into somebody in her local community that she, you know, has a spare coat, right? Or some useful item. Say, here, you know, here you go, to the local person. And this gets into the thumbnail and the title for this stream, which is in fact how John 14:26 style, comforter, which is the Holy Ghost, will teach all things and bring unto Benton's remembrance, which is what I talked about with the how I dealt with the constipation. That whole process, that happened by recognizing that I had begun to attach to notions around, well, maybe something should be done or could be done about the plight of these so-called little ones. And the reality is, well, not in the way that Benton's own Hope Station, because Benton, in the context of the performance within the context of Hope Station. Now we get into when we did pulled off the highway into a traffic jam, haven't we? And hang on, I'm gonna make a wide right turn here. I can't really see the trailer, but trust. This is truck exit only, but guess what? I'm going in anyway. I don't think this place is even open yet. As what we believe America to be dies yet another death. Increasingly, it's difficult to tell if these places are open or not. If it's dark, they're not quite as lit up as they used to be now, are they? Give me just a minute to get off the drive line here. Take a little mini break. Still got time. Got a couple of minutes to burn. Backing into a space, so bear with me. And this is also part of the Christ story, right? And the idea of alms giving and, you know, giving to the poor and all of this. But remember, what I am doesn't know anything about giving conditionally. So it doesn't know, well, we're going to need to involve ourselves in a charity and, you know, we're going to see formalize a structure, hire staff, a nonprofit, incorporate, you know, because pretty soon there's a whole organization and hardly any children are actually being given the resources that they require. So or an adult, but especially children. And that stream title came from, if you go to my post tab, there's a video about poor people in Appalachia. I think it's Charles Kuralt, I believe, if I'm remembering the guy's name, the correct old newsman. And from 1964, and the plight of these poor folks in Appalachia. Now, this is what I mean when I talk about economics and access to resources within the context of world of death, game of lies, vacuous, delusory, adversarial realm of business transactions. This is what I'm talking about. And that's why I say, I find it most helpful to just start with 1960 to present day on that, timeline, official fiction style. And so this idea that things were wonderful in the past and they've gone to shit lately, that's a fucking lie. And it's a lie of the system, by the system, on behalf of the system, in service of the system. Go look at Appalachia 1964. Now, I understand that television production would have represented PSYOP and it's staged and it's managed. Yeah, I understand all of that. I get it. And those may have well just been actors. And they did seem to have genuine Appalachian accents. But either way, I think you understand. We're truthers enough. We're royally truthers enough to understand all of that. That's not the point. And it doesn't in any way negate the points I'm making either. Right. My points still stand nonetheless. And that's important for truthers to realize. And so when you see the Epic Economist, and I'm really no fan of that channel, but again, Millennial Steam references it enough that I check in to see what's going on. And looking at some of these TikToks that are covered over there, and people are now talking about prepping for, what they view as looming uncertain economic times. Well, guess what? It was uncertain economic times 15 years ago. Because what was 15 years ago? The bailouts, right? The subprime mortgage crisis. That was 15 years ago. And what do all of us know as so-called truthers? Or, historically, that's been the channel. It's been mostly so-called truthers, the audience, myself included. Or, like I say, Benton historically is identified as a conspiracy theorist because remember, this channel is entertainment. This is for entertainment purposes. But the points I'm seeking to make is, we know as truthers that a lot of people were talking about homesteading and prepping 15 to 20 years ago or earlier, only to be mocked and ridiculed by the NPC normies. And now the NPC normies are on TikTok talking about extreme couponing and, showing you their pantry and saying, well, we're not preppers. But then I don't know if you watch the TV shows about preppers, extreme, whatever they used to call it. Well, they're showing me the same process that the preppers were showing. It's just that some of those preppers were like, they turned it into their whole identity and a lifestyle, right? Which is, fair enough. If that's what they want to do, it has validity. But it's at a certain point, it's just more or less their hobby also, right? And, not a bad idea. And what I used to say to people back then is, well, I'm not a prepper, but I just don't find it interesting. However, the government, look at what the government does. The government hoards all sorts of things. What are you talking about? The government is a prepper. Well, I mean, why wouldn't you be a prepper? You can't just tell me, oh, well, that because it seems ridiculous. Why? Because we're told America is the richest country of all time, and it seems to be affluent, and it still is affluent in certain ways. If up to 40% of the entire food supply ends up in the garbage, well, that means if I need to, I can sustain I can subsist by eating out of the garbage, and yet sounds gross. I'm talking about subsisting. I'm not talking about what sounds gross. I'm talking about subsistence. And when people talk about survival, they don't even know that really they're talking about subsistence. They just don't understand it, and they use the word survival. Now, the word survival is contained within the meaning of the word subsist, but subsist, it's more apt. It fits better. It's to survive on a minimum of resources. See? And people are now realizing that they've never mastered budgeting. Well, Benton mastered budgeting many years ago. I mastered it in my life. I mastered budgeting, just like I mastered trip planning in order to be able to be an effective truck driver. I mastered it, right? I mastered the budgeting of my money, right? So what we have is actually people want to talk about economy and job markets. This is austerity, folks. And I mean dictionary definition. And because I studied the bailouts, because I kept up with the news of the bailouts and the news coverage, especially Alex Jones, who should have won the Pulitzer Prize for his coverage of the bailouts, no doubt. The best coverage of the bailouts day in and day out. He'll never get credit for that. And he was covering austerity measures in Greece. So I'm watching this, and Greece was told, hey, you've had all these workers' rights, you've had all these pensions, you've had a 4-day work week or whatever, and it's been the land of milk and honey. And yeah, the European Central Bank will bail out your economy, but the Greek people are going to accept austerity. So America is also going to accept austerity. It's just in a different form. The Europeans tend to rebel, have general strikes, and all of this, and they have to more or less be forced in a lot of cases. Americans, having already internalized authoritarianism, and that's the only way to have a strong authoritarian government. And when you have a strong authoritarian government, the people have no power, and the government has all the power, right? Or I should say the government, the banking system, the corporations, Benito Mussolini's helicopter hand. And in fact, labor is included as that. The state treats labor as if it was a possession or property. And that's America. And the fact is, Americans, there's no end to what the American people will tolerate. So that's how America is being forced into austerity. That's how it's happening. So I'm going to have some grapes, so my apologies if that bothers you. Got to socially engineer this car that thinks they're going to follow me to the promised land. Because no, you're not. No, you are not. I don't know what state plates those are, but it's not Colorado, Kansas, or Missouri. So they must be on a road trip. So realistically, what could have been done to help those people? Because remember, in Appalachia, in that video in 1964, and what will an American tell you, especially one of today? Oh well, they could do this, they could do that. They must bootstrap. They're not working hard enough. They need to do more. Well, is it not possible they have done and continue to do everything they can with what they've been given to work with? And yeah, the purpose of the TV news piece is to get ratings and also to psyop and to tug on the heartstrings in the Christmas season. Yeah, that's true also. But the fact is, there's still people living that way today. It's just different because they have greater access to information and technology. Now, I would assert that in many ways, the lives of the children today are worse because of the further morally degenerated state of the people because of technology, actually, and because of access to drugs. Because I also watched a video about Appalachia filmed this year or last year, and everybody they talk to, everything is all about drugs. There's nothing that doesn't directly connect to drugs, right? Whereas most likely in 1964, by and large, other than alcohol, drugs weren't in the picture. Now, alcohol clearly the hardest drug of all, but there wasn't the meth, the heroin, and all these other things, and the medical system. And I forget what year Tuskegee was. You know, the Tuskegee experiment, and also that was so serious that in a rare move, the president of the United States, while he was the president of the United States, Bill Clinton, publicly apologized on behalf of the federal government for the Tuskegee experiment. This is something the government almost never does. It's quite rare. What was the carrot to get people to volunteer in Alabama for the Tuskegee experiment? Because remember, people lined up to apply and they hoped to be accepted into these experiments. Well, it was because they were promised free health care for the rest of their lives. Maybe for their whole family. I don't exactly remember, but it's at least for them. I have to look it up. Maybe for their children. Not exactly sure. And this semi's merged onto the interstate. Now he's just perfectly following me. But just barely passed him as he was getting up to speed. One thing about having a slow truck out here, it turns me into a sitting duck. Since I can't go beyond a certain speed, and almost all the trucks out here can. All right, buddy, if you want to go 63, I guess you can follow me. There you go. That's right. Why? Because I just happened to be there when you merged into the interstate. Why do you have to follow me? It's just a great wide open out west. Why would you choose to bury yourself up the ass into my trailer? That's just crazy. And see, he can go as fast as he wants out here. You know, he'd probably go 80. Wants to ride my tail and let me be a sitting duck. I don't get it. It's adversarial. It's predatory. You know, it's power. It's power seeking, right? Oh, look, this guy might not like me up his ass and he can't really do anything about it. It's like, oh, yeah, I can. I can test your resolve to go 60 motherfucking 3. If that don't work, I can see, well, you go 58. If they send me out here enough, I'm going to have to be like, you're going to have to turn that truck up. Turn it back down. I mean, I don't know. Can they do that remotely? Surely by now they can. I would think. Turn the bitch back down when I get back east. I don't care. And now because of this bozo, it's just like 100 cars are catching up to me. See if I can finally get back to 68. Anyway, where was I? It's also unnecessary. Because I don't do that. I just let them get in front. I'll go slow until I sort of figure out. I'll just pass them. You know, I'll go slow enough that they can get in front of me. So I took everything I could do to be able to get in front of me. It's like, why do I have to slow down? Because he's getting on the fucking freeway. Doesn't even make sense. Because there's no traffic out here. Wide open roads. Anyway. Back to the economics and all of this. So back in my own situation with the constipation is, you know, it's to fall victim to that desire to be of assistance or to intervene. It's just not appropriate, not possible. Like, no, there's nothing that can be done. Children are going to continue to grow up in these circumstances. And other than what each of us could choose to do directly, there's nothing any of us can do. Right. And then when the Christian organizations want to try to go out, you know, they end up turning it into an undertaking of just sort of being it becomes very performative. And pretty soon they're just walking around looking for homeless people, giving them granola bars, peanut butter crackers, and like the cheapest socks on the market. Well, I mean, thanks, but I mean, you're really not giving me anything here. And then the Mr. Miyagi's of the world would say, well, beggars can't be choosers. And I'll say, I don't remember asking. These folks showed up and started making offers. So what do you mean? Now I got to pretend like it's some great thing they're doing for me? Why? For what? But I've gone and bought 2 packs of Dickie socks, black crew socks, back before I started wearing these diabetes socks. There was a guy flying a sign as I was leaving the Walmart. That was in Colorado, actually. I wasn't truck driving, though. And I started to break open a pack to give him 2 socks, 2 pairs. I said, fuck it. Just gave him the whole pack of 6 or 8 or whatever it is. Just his fucking eyes lit up, man. They don't get good quality socks very often. And guess what? If they're addicted to drugs or alcohol and you give them $20, realistically, they can't go spend $10 on a pack of socks. It's just not going to happen. And you can have a judgment on that. Well, yeah, I've got an opinion too. But part of that is living on the street sucks. And in some ways, I understand why people may end up consuming substances or alcohol as a result. It's not a justification. I get it. And as far as the middle class, you can call them high earners, you can call them affluent, you can call them educated. That's fine. They're having austerity measures applied to them. Just like Greece, if somebody took an early retirement and was enjoying their life, they're free to go back into the workforce if they want to experience less austerity, right? So the ones who don't want to experience austerity are figuring out how to become even more useful to the corporations, which benefits the system, of course. And that is the American dream, is to be willing to do more for less. Or alternatively, you've got Gen Z coming out of college, and there are a lot of them, their parents have access to enough resources. They're helicopter parents. So they're going to work low-level jobs for corporations, and people are going to say Gen Z doesn't want to work. No, Gen Z is not brainwashed into corporate slavery like Gen X and Boomers. They know not to give their fucking complete essence to a corporation for pennies on the dollar. They know not to do that. They're better than us in that regard. because hard work performed in service of already rich corporations can never be a virtue. Meanwhile, lots of boomers and Gen X believe that it is a virtue. That's because they're brainwashed. Now, so is Gen Z, but they're not brainwashed in that way. That brainwashing didn't take. So they can do things like, even if they've been working in corporate world, even if they have all this education. Now, some of them are going to continue to fall victim to education, and they're just going to go get their master's, and then they're going to go get their doctorate, and they're still not going to have a job, or they're still going to have low-level retail jobs. Some of them will have the skills and desire to climb the corporate ladder in retail. Again, American dream style, to do more for less. But really, that's the idea, is to have the opportunity to do more for less. Because remember, in a lot of these shithole countries, that's why it's called the American dream, because they don't have a corporatized system of, if you're willing to show up here and let us enslave you and drive you forward as a beast of burden, you will get a paycheck. And the banditos won't steal it from you, right? Or the government won't fuck you out of, the government will only fuck you out of some of it. You'll still get to keep most of it, or at least more than half, depending. That's what is meant by opportunity. So people hear American dream and just assume, well, that must be a wonderful thing. Well, look, a nightmare is a dream. Somebody says to me, so I'm like, live this life, be there, whatever house the person lives in. Doesn't mean it'll be the person who's actually living or having that specific protracted experience of death, I should say. A lot of Louisiana people on the road this morning. Why that is. It's the second Louisiana I've seen. Louisiana plays. Louisiana. Maybe there's a sporting event in Denver or something. Well, the holidays, I guess. Well, I can't keep my spittoon up already. It shouldn't be that hard. I know it was here earlier. I don't know where it's gone. It's disappeared. After rinsing the sugar off my teeth. You see where we're at on the battery. Yeah, we're holding strong. So back to the title of the stream, I listened to that video about Appalachia in 1964, and they're talking to the mother. Her families. This is the pulling on the heartstring. Her children aren't going to get Christmas this year, and so she's lamenting from the perspective of the children. And in fact, some of the children apparently don't go to school because their clothes and their shoes are so non-existent or in such poor condition that they're too embarrassed to go to school. I mean, again, I'm sure that's a thing. Was a thing, and probably still now. Today's it's not that difficult to get the clothes and the shoes necessarily, but because they're demonic caregivers take schools away. But I don't want to get into that. But it's more or less the idea that these children have nothing in a world of plenty. Well, as we know, it's not, in fact, a world of plenty. It's actually the lack of plenty, the lack of abundance. Still, it's sort of an interesting way to approach it. And why wouldn't children be subjected to this? Being symbolically representing spiritual perfection and innocence. But why wouldn't they be subjected to all of this? By the adults, if only because the adults permit it. And so this is, now we see why Benton falls victim to that attachment that caused the constipation, is because, there's part of Benton that would want to deal with these people and to correct the adults and say, hey, y'all don't have the option of an improper society because of what it does to children. So everybody's going to have to stop whatever they're doing and figure it the fuck out on behalf of the children. Right. Well, again, I myself have noted that even if these people could be deputized, they're not capable of it in the first place as far as actually performing within a proper society. So it's just simply not possible to change or reform or create society. And that would then treat the children properly. And that's because of the aggregate degenerate condition of the masses individually. Until individuals do better, nothing can occur. And so Benton falling victim to his own hope station, The human contained within this human experience is something I've referred to as a hope station, just representative of nothing whatsoever. Or nothing. It just comes with the package. Is it a bug or is it a feature? I don't know. I guess it's both, depending on one's perspective. Rough road. We must be getting close to the state line. The politicians know they can steal a little bit more of the road money out here because it's almost not Kansas anymore. We're almost not in Kansas anymore. This is time for some watermelon. It's like this guy broke down out here. Or gal. It's watermelon ain't for the fuck. Oh. What millennials team's been talking about, and some of the people on the Epic Economist TikToks, is you got folks who just are starting to skip meals, or they really don't even have enough food. And the reality is, sure, I could take a look at their finances. I could sit them down. We could make a budget. I could show them that, well, actually, here you have this amount of dollars for food. And yeah, you can get proper calories and nutrition on this. Your typical American that's used to all of these processed foods and the tastes of these things, good luck switching them over to, metaphorical or literal rice and beans overnight. And when society, and here's another thing about the masses and the NPC normies, they watch what everybody else does and then they mimic it. So that's why DoorDash and food delivery got so big, because everybody kind of rushed to it all at the same time. Now it's normalized. So you're going to tell somebody not to do the thing they want to do anyway, and it's normalized? Like, okay, how do you discipline those people? You don't. So now they keep ordering DoorDash, but then once they run out of money, they're just out of money. Now it's like, okay, what do we eat? It's like, well, I was homeless long enough, and shout out to JG, who always reminded me that you are homeless. Okay, fair enough, JG, but thank you for reminding me. Benton knows how to go to the food bank, right? Now, if you live in middle America, the food bank's likely to humiliate you, make you show a driver's license, sign you up in their system. You might even have to sit down with a caseworker, at least the first time. Uh, you can only come like once every 90 days sometimes, depending. And then, there's multiple. If you have a car or transportation, there's generally multiple food banks, and each one has their own like rotating schedule. And more often than not, people tend to hit all of them. All right. That that whole knowing that to be in line outside a certain building, the second Tuesday of the month, because that's how you get your bus pass in downtown Austin. That's something that the homeless person learns how to do. All right. Well, these normies don't know anything about that. Well, they're going to fucking find out. That's austerity. Austerity is the process whereby the NPC normie figures it the fuck out where to go stand in line on the first Tuesday of the month to get, the one halfway decent clothes closet in town. Whatever it is that they can get for free. And then Mr. Miyagi will still say beggars can't be choosers. You don't work, you don't eat, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Well, again, they're offering, but also if I'm given if I have a limited amount of money to subsist on, if I take advantage of all of the community resources, and I don't mean take advantage and exploit by way of exploitation, if I take advantage of what's offered and I share what I'm given that I can't use, and everybody works together, then now if a person has discipline and can budget their money, and they're willing to accept things they don't prefer, like roommates or a certain type of living situation, as long as it's safe and not, again, exploitative. Then, isn't that what's proper for society? Because ultimately, who benefits? The corporation benefits because now they get to keep a worker. Because I know for me, economically, at a certain point, I valued my time at the level of effectiveness. I could more effectively utilize my own time outside of employment as long as I was willing to not pay rent and not have a car payment and not live indoors, aka homelessness. Because to remain in employment after the bailouts, I was making just enough money with a roommate, my second wife, to live indoors, have 2 vehicles, car insurance, put fuel in the cars. They were both paid for. Because during the good times, we saved up and bought, reliable cash cars. and come from a culture where if you drive around in a beater, nobody gives a fuck. Actual po folks who know they're poor and ain't trying to put on airs. And see, that's the big thing about Americans. The consumerism and the branding and the advertising, it's become so synonymous that they don't even know that they are all putting on airs. Right? To order from the perspective of a person during the Depression, to order DoorDash is you're acting like a rich person. Like, what are you doing? You're acting above your station. You're putting on airs. That's for people that can afford it. You can't afford it. I don't mean you, the listener. I can afford it temporarily and don't do it. I think it's fucking ridiculous. I did it when I broke my foot, and I still couldn't bring myself to do it more than once per day, max. Because I was still eating bad food back then. And I got out of bed on my crutches, and I hobbled my broken heel ass across the street to the Waffle House, usually once a day. Then I'd have a second meal. I'd usually have something delivered. Hated it. Fucking waste of money. And I could afford it. I had plenty of money. Wasn't a problem. And I had an actual justification. And still couldn't do it. Twice a day, day in, day out. Bullshit. It's one thing for people to be catered to. It's another for them to allow themselves to be catered to and then to feel entitled to that or worthy of it. And the system is reminding them, oh, you're not worthy of this unless you figure out how to make yourself more valuable to a corporation. Right? Or in Benton's case, well, Benton likes to live in a big rig. I actually like to drive, when all I'm doing is driving, Now it gets old. That sometimes it's just like, yeah, I'd rather be done for the day, but I enjoy the driving overall. And, the pay is shit for what I'm doing, but it's not bad contextually. The luxury, when there's austerity, it's a luxury for me to go to Walmart, fill a basket, realize that I need to fill another basket, check out the first basket, get $100 in cash back, because there's no fee, get the maximum of $100, then wheel the buggy out to the truck, throw all that stuff in the truck, which is mostly water and just random bullshit for the truck. Because I like the better windshield washer fluid and stuff, so I just spend my own money on it, especially in the winter. The Rain X version, and my shop towels, expensive ass paper towels, just convenience, for being a truck driver. Wheel all that out, come back in, fill the basket with groceries. It's another almost $100, or it's $100, and you get another $100 in cash back. And don't have to think twice about it. But I know myself and my own frugal nature. And in fact, I've talked about this before. When I first started truck driving in 2018, I found that I was so frugal and I got so used to living in the streets with nothing. I had to just make myself buy shit. So otherwise, I'd go to Walmart and I'd talk myself out of buying half the shit that I needed. So I finally just said, "Fuck it. If you know you're going to use it, throw it in the basket and don't worry about it." But don't, I trust myself not to just buy a bunch of random bullshit and then later on I'm like, why did I even buy this? I don't do that. So now you have some people who aren't disciplined, and when they do have money, they end up buying some things where later in the month they're going to be like, why do I even have this? And they have no money in the bank. And they have bills due. And it's like, okay, what are we going to eat for dinner? Like, well, we don't have any money. But we have a Labubu, or we have, a subscription that could be canceled, Or, oh, well, Benton spent $221 because StreamYard, a year of StreamYard was half off. It's like, yeah, you haven't used it in 3 months. Oh, yeah, well, I'm going to get my YouTube channel going again. Yeah, but what about now? We could use the $220. Oh, well, but I saved money. Yo, it ain't savings. The fact that people think they're saving money and it's there until you decide to use it. Spending $220 because it would have been $440, that's not savings. That's a discount. It's a 50% discount. It's not saving money. Oh, it's cheaper if you buy two. Not if I'm only going to use one. It's more expensive, obviously. But how many times I've had to wait there because somebody's rushing back to the cooler to get a second 20-ounce Coke because it's cheaper if you buy two. And then they take 2 sips off of it. And Benton is in LA, getting the recycling out of the trash, and he pours it out. And when you're getting gas, you're like, damn, why are my feet sticky? It's because not everybody walks it over to the ground like Benton. Some people just pour that shit out right there. That's why. But if the person understands, well, actually, it's more money because I'm only going to drink one of these. But that's how Stockholm syndrome everybody is. That the systems run a train on everybody. Savings. What are you talking about? Savings. How is consumer credit? How is consumer debt a thing? Years ago, the average American spent $1.04 for every dollar they earned. It's got to be way worse than that now. That's average. Then, now you've got epic economists doing videos. People are more or less confused about, now everybody's acting confused about why they have consumer credit. So that y'all can live the life that you were told comes along with being an American. When I was a child in the Mississippi River Delta region of southeast Arkansas, born on the bayou, the most historically backwards, uneducated, impoverished, violent area of the country, life was still cheap. Poverty was still so near that as movies and toys and popular culture and products and junk food, as all of this was sort of rising up in the zeitgeist, Other than a few people who their parents just wanted to give them everything that they wanted, most kids understood. It's like, yeah, you'll sort of get what you get at Christmas and for your birthday, and whatever else you could kind of just almost scam, not even scam, but just sort of whatever you hustle otherwise, work the system. Other than that, look but don't touch. And then, go play with take your Transformers over to the neighbor kid's house and play with his Transformers. Nintendo Entertainment System, well, I'll get this game and my best friend will get that game, and then, we'll pool our money, and this weekend we'll rent a couple of games. And, that's the way it'll go. See, these people today don't know anything about any of that. And I'm not saying it was better back then. I'm saying everybody has gotten used to, you just get to have everything available at all times. And everybody's used to that. And people can romanticize 1987 and 1996 all they want. Y'all ain't capable of going back to that level of deprivation. Sorry. You gonna go back to look but don't touch? I don't think you are. I don't think you are. I looked at computers from afar as a boy for years and got to touch them every once in a while. Right. Now everybody's got one in their pocket by the time they turn 10 years old. And that level of consciousness can't return to the level of consciousness of 1996. That ain't possible. Can't do it. And then I'm listening to clips of Brendan Schwab and Brian Callen on their podcast. Clips from a clip channel that makes fun of them and critiques them. Social commentary, satire. And they're confused about video games and adults. I'm like, yo, everybody age 40 and under plays video games. I mean, everybody. Now, yeah, anecdotally, if you know the one or two rare exceptions, that doesn't mean anything. When I say everybody, I'm being hyperbolic. It's effectively everybody. They all. Brendan Shaw, being however old he is, in his 40s, and spends so much time chasing tail that he don't have time for video games, is one thing. And Brian Callen being a new father, and maybe it's his second family, I don't exactly know. And he's basically like a 60-year-old. Well, that's neither. It's like, okay, Grandpa, you don't understand why Benton accepts that it is what it is. It's normalized. So you're going to send the people of today to 1996 and they're going to play video games not on a network? They're going to put in a Nintendo Entertainment System. They're going to put in a Super Nintendo cartridge with no network connectivity? What are they going to do? Find somebody in the neighborhood to come play NBA Jam with them? Because I don't think I would have even gone to college in the first place if not for the social opportunity. It's like, well, worst case scenario, my parents are paying for it. I'll just go hang out, right? And, meet a lot of girls. Well, unfortunately, John Wayne, StreamYard's trying to get referrals, so they put an icon over your comments. So it's funny how the key part of the comment is always obscured underneath the dollar sign. It's almost like the realm has a sense of humor. It's like the vacuous, delusory, adversarial realm of business transactions. We'll just put the symbol of the actual USD. We'll just put that right here that you want to actually read. It won't make sense because you won't know that one key word that's buried partially beneath that dollar sign. So I actually don't know what you're saying down there because I can't read it. Because everything's about business transactions. And remember, John Wayne, and maybe you're quoting maybe I don't know what your attention is. Remember, the people who have the most work the least, and the people who work the most have the least. So work, it simply doesn't mean what people think it means. It simply doesn't represent what we're told it represents. Oh, you don't shine. Oh, okay. Well, what's the context? John Wayne says you don't work, you don't eat. Well, that's not true. That's just simply not true. So I don't know. Are you doing a thing down there, or do you still believe that? Because that's not true. Lots of people don't work and also eat. Lots of people. That probably was true at one point in America, but it's no longer true. You don't grind, you don't shine. Well, but what's meant by shine? What do you mean by shine? In what context? And see, this is where I will really challenge people, because a lot of times people say things like that and they don't even know what they mean. Like, I don't know what you mean by that. What do you mean by shine? And maybe it is song lyrics. I don't know. Hey, there's old Chuck. What's up, Chuck? What's up, comma Chuck? I never finished up on the truth community stuff though with Landry and Alex Stein. And I said this is where the truth community really exposes itself in a lot of ways. Because I hadn't even heard about this. I just stumbled onto a replay of a stream. And apparently Landry somehow gotten in touch with Alex Stein. And I guess maybe they've done some collaborating. I'm not exactly sure. I'm going to have to go find out. And I'd like to know. And maybe old Alex is mentoring Landry in a way, perhaps. Not sure. But the truth community either pretends not to know who Alex Stein is. Some of them are so out of it they don't know who that is. And even though he's monetarily successful as a IRL troll and content creator, and then some of them won't acknowledge that because they won't want to acknowledge that somebody in the communities maybe actually accomplished something, at least in the eyes of this world that only measures in money, to seek to network with people of, some modicum of power, money, and influence. Right. Oh, going to be the cameraman? Well, there you go. Either way. Sounds pretty cool. And I'm sure that would afford a lot of opportunities in the future. A lot of access, right? So I myself, for entertainment, have involved myself in viewing a lot of this lolcows like Aaron Imholt from Steel Toe Morning Show, and surprise, surprise, Alex Stein got involved in some of that. And on Alex Stein's own show, he would talk about Aaron Imholt drama and Nick Rekieta drama. And hell, who knows? I mean, this is possible in the future. Alex Stein might become so infatuated with some of these panelverse personalities. It's within the realm of possibility he could be on his, big show talking about, certain panelverse types, and you could have an influx of newcomers. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. I'm not making a prediction. I'm saying that's a possibility. It's possible. And I know Alex Stein got involved with one of my favorite internet phenomena, or an internet phenomenon, or the internet phenomenon known as Fish Tank. And I was a huge fan of the first 2 seasons. It kind of fell off. The content fell off after that, but Uh, Alex Stein got involved in that. And I think, well, I believe Alex was making, wasn't he doing IRL content with this Bert from Fish Tank? I think maybe he was. It was either him or somebody else. I forget. They were doing IRL live streams. I think it might have been Alex, but I'm not exactly sure. I don't recall. And I know most of y'all don't know anything about fish tanks. So you're certainly not going to know Bert from Fish Tank. Most of you. That's fine. No big deal. No reason to look into it. I'm not being sarcastic. Here's somebody else. Here's another big rig merging, and it's just going to perfectly merge to where I won't be able to pass. We'll just be in each other's fucking space. So I got that to look forward to. Bear with me. Now he's going to do this thing where he's not going to speed up, but he's not going to slow down enough. So he's going to ride right beside me at 60 miles an hour. Because, I mean, why wouldn't he? Remember, he can go whatever speed he wants. I'm limited to a certain top speed. And that's what I mean by sitting ducks. They love that power. They love being able to control my speed. They love it. Now here's the weigh station. He probably knows about it though. I didn't know it was here. Is it closed? Is it open? Should be closed. Yeah, it's closed. I'm just going to hang back and let all this shake out. Because now he's slow rolling, but if I'd have hammered down at 71, there's a 0% chance I'd have ever got around it. 0. But how slow do I go so he'll finally get far enough away from me that I can get up to speed? Like I say, man, this world does not have real physics. And now a car's become enamored with me. And they're going to do a ride along in my mirror in the other lane. Because they're bored. They're on a road trip. They got Illinois plates. They might as well watch my lit up face in the mirror, I guess. There's nothing else to do on their road trip. And truckers ruin it for me because half these truckers are fucking creepy weirdos who want to try to get the women to show their boobies or whatever. Who cares? So now we finally got them all away from us. That was a whole lot of unnecessary activity. So get these people to get the fuck away from us. And all it took was one big rig merging onto the interstate and created all that chaos. Here comes another one, just perfectly positioned at the perfect speed. This is the third time it's happened today. Just absolutely perfect. See, that's mathematically that just shit just ain't possible for it to occur at this frequency. Waking dreams, surrealistic unreality. Thankfully, he's limited even slower than me, believe it or not. My truck ain't slow on the East Coast, but it's slow out here. Yeah, a lot of these owner operators, guy's got the chicken lights all over his big rig. You know, he's an owner operator. He's probably got a custom turbo set up, 18 speed or whatever. And, they love to play around. Like, yeah, man, I'm not into all that. You can have it, buddy. King of the road. Enjoy yourself. Have fun. And like the MPC normies they are, a lot of them are doing flatbed now. Dry van rates went so shitty. It's the next thing you know, they're all on social media talking about, oh, money's in flatbeds, and everybody went to flatbed. The ones that could hack it anyway. Like, I don't know, is it really that much better? Maybe if you're going to do fucking oversize, heavy haul, all of that, step deck, I guess they call it. I'm not interested. I do at least as far as the trailer, it's the easiest. I do the easiest. I ain't out here trying to start a business. There's way better businesses than this to get into. Well, that's beside the point, sir. And you're welcome to stay. But yeah, anyway, feel free to come back tomorrow or the day after. But yeah, we're not The reason why this channel is not involved in character assassination or interested is because you're not wrong about character assassination. And I'm not a fan of the term cuck personally. You're already tipping your hand a little bit by even using that term. That's a bad sign that you would even use the term cuck. But, I'll allow it. However, my assertion is there's nobody I can mention that's publicly known that isn't capable of, that I can't assassinate their character. So if you have such a strong opinion of Alex Stein, such a strong negative opinion, but you don't have that same strong negative opinion for almost everybody, you then have a positive opinion for certain strong personalities in the zeitgeist, and I'm here to tell you that's a mistake. That's a failure of philosophy. It's a flaw in your thinking, right? Because they're all equally fallen. So if you have a preference away from Alex Stein, but you simultaneously have a preference towards another type of individual, that's a problem. And it implies that it's somehow a correct ideology exists whereby Alex Stein is in an out group, but there's other popular people who are in an in group. And I'm here to tell you that's simply false and invalid, and provably false and invalid. It's not my opinion. So, and again, the use of the term cuck is that's suspicious. It's very suspicious because that, in fact, says a great deal about you potentially, that you're thinking. I don't think about that term pretty much ever. So the fact that it's on your mind at all is a bad sign, because that you're already hinting at humiliation fetish, humiliation rituals, possibly being titillated thereby, certain potential proclivities, even taking pleasure in the idea of cuckoldry, right? Because the whole idea of that is, well, the bull's not doing anything wrong. And the gal, it's like, well, there's really no such thing as slut shaming in 2025. So you've got three individuals, and the so-called cuck can be mocked and ridiculed and pointed at, humiliated. It's like, okay, but now you've introduced yourself as a fourth person. So how do you enter into all of this? What's your involvement, right? Because what I know about bulls is most of them, they just want to bang the broad. They're not really. They just his rocks off because of the humiliation. It's not that. So you're now involving yourself as a fourth layer in the cuckoldry. So where is your skin in the game? Even using that term, I don't get it. Meanwhile, I'm one of the rare individuals who knew the meaning of the term cuckold before cuck as slang ever entered the popular vernacular. I was aware of the dictionary definition of the word cuckold because I grew up reading a lot of books. And after seeing that word here and there, I found I'm 12 years old. It's like, oh, that's interesting. Moving on, because I just wanted to squeeze some titties back then. maybe see some boobies. These weirdo, repressed fetish dynamics. And that's what we talk about with the so-called right. You know, the so-called right is just as morally repugnant, and they're just as morally wicked and depraved as the left is. It's a different manifestation. You know, the left is in your face, and they're proud of it. And they run it all through the so-called kink community, you know, and all of this, you know, intersectionality, LGBTQ, and all of that. So don't typically entertain those levels of degeneracy around these parts. FYI, but I mean, you know, feel free to express yourself, but got to train them up if they're going to be coming back at any point. But yeah, I myself have no. Well, I in fact took an immediate dislike to Alex Stein, and in fact, it's only that he's involved himself with Fish Tank, Sam Hyde, and the Dabbleverse, if anybody knows what that is. And even then, I didn't go start. Well, I've never chosen to go watch Alex Stein content. Probably never will. I'm just simply not interested. Now, I did see. I was still attempting to watch Alex Jones, which I've given up on. But when Alex first started covering some of Alex Stein going to these town halls, and I considered it quite boorish behavior personally, but some of it was funny, I will admit. Alex Stein is not he certainly is, he's decent with comedy, decent, fair to middling with comedy, in my estimation. But, you know, I've gone to a stand-up show, Michael Ian Black, who's fucking hilarious. He's a very good stand-up comedian. Now, whether or not one appreciates or agrees with any of its views, I go to laugh. I don't go for political views. And in fact, I would say that politics is neither here nor there, because power is a prerequisite for engagement in a political process, and the people of America have no power and therefore are simply not engaged in a political process. It's actually not even relevant. Politics is really largely irrelevant, or should be, from the perspective of the people. Now, who or what is served by politics as far as the people is concerned? Well, the corporations, the government, the so-called powers that be. It's in service of all of that. It's not for us. We're not involved because the people have no power whatsoever. None. And groups of people without power have no involvement in any political part. I mean, none. No involvement. None whatsoever. So do with that as you will. But that is not my opinion. That's objective fact. So, whatever. See if I can open a can while I'm driving a big rig. I think I can. Maybe not spill apricot juice all over myself in the process. Maybe. Now, where's my trash can? Would really be doing good. Out of reach, probably. Why would it be within arm's reach? That'd be crazy. Now the road just out of nowhere becomes so bumpy I can't do anything. Funny how that works. There's the waking dream, surrealistic unreality, rearing its ugly head yet again. It's like, oh, wait a minute, sir. You think this is real? Let us remind you of what this is. Oh, thanks. Appreciate it. I almost forgot. There's the trash can. It fell over. All right. Good deal. Good deal. And here comes Mr. Four-Wheeler. Get him a piece of the action. Oh my God, something's happening in the cab of that big rig. Let's go check it out. And they don't know anything. Doesn't matter what it is. Now, Chuck, if you're still around and Landry being Alex Stein's cameraman, is that an unpaid internship, or does a salary come along with that? It's none of my business, but more of a curiosity. I don't know. Volunteer basis. Alex seems like the type to, provide some sort of remuneration. Is that the right word? Remuneration. Man, stimulated the fuck out of my kidneys. I think that watermelon did it. Ugh. We're only 51 miles from the 55 miles, 54 miles from the delivery. How about you? And this trucking company, I don't know what the fuck we're doing. So I got loaded in New York, and I'm about to be in the Denver area, and I'm going to deliver. I got 2 out of 3 loads left on the trailer, and I'm delivering the second partial first. Then I'm going to a cross dock, and they're going to unload the first load I picked up, which is supposed to be the entire truckload, but it's only like 16 pallets. They're going to unload that, and then I'm going to go pick up a load that's going to Indiana. So I guess I'm going to go get reloaded with the 16 pallets from the cross dock, I guess, and then take it to, I mean, I don't even, at this point, I don't even know what the fuck I'm doing. Like, I don't even know. I know when I ask, I'll just be talked to like I'm an idiot, and it's just obvious and matter of fact, but it's like, I don't know what we're doing. Why would I know? I'm asking because I need to know, and I don't know. I'm not even really curious. It's like, yeah, tell me where to go. Fuck. Who cares? I mean, this is what, I mean, forget about staying in business as a long haul company. To actually make money, apparently this is what's required. A whole bunch of bizarre fucking shenanigans. And for all I know, I'm just gonna leave it in the warehouse and somebody else is gonna deliver it. Then it's like, the bills of lading has the trailer number on it. Are they just gonna go deliver it with somebody else's trailer and just hope nobody notices or care? I don't know what the fuck they're doing. I really don't. And then I'm told it's going to the U.S. Mint. It's like, why am I going to the U.S. Mint? Are y'all fucking with, like, what? Why am I going there? This is bizarre. Get fucking searched. What the hell is this? Whatever. Fit and duck. They're trying to ride me to the promised land again. Another fucking high-speed truck thinks it's going to settle in behind me at 68. No, you're not. You can go 63 if you want. Why? If everybody loves 68 so much, why don't they just set all the trucks to 68 and be done with it? I don't get it. What are we doing? Fall in love with the ass of my trailer. In a 75 zone. All the fucking way there. Whatever. Weirdos. Then they'll want to play possum and try to get somebody like me to try to pass them, and then they're bored, so then they can play around with somebody like me who might get mad and start road rage because that truck's toy. I don't give a fuck. I'll just go 63. I don't care. I worked for 14 months for Schneider National and couldn't go faster than 63. So I don't give a shit. I go 63 all day. Matter to me. Go 55. Fuck them. Who cares? Then I'm reading the YouTube comments, Adam Carolla's channel, and You know, all these MAGA idiots can't figure out that Adam Carolla's a liberal from Los Angeles. He's not a conservative, but he's an actual liberal, and there's nothing wrong with actual liberals. Meaning, he still more or less believes the same as he believed in the 90s, which was, today's MAGA was that was a liberal in 1995. Hate to break it to you. And he had on Jim Norton, who's married to a trans person from like Norway or somewhere. Yeah, who's a biological man. And they're all like having derogatory comments in the in the YouTube comments. I'm typing, well, Trump's right hand man on the economy, Secretary of Treasury Scott Bessent, is a man married to a man. What's the fucking difference? Google that shit. You'll see a picture of Scott, his husband Jonathan, and one of their two adopted, I'm assuming adopted children. I don't even know how that goes these days. Surrogates? I don't know what they're doing. I'm from a conservative upbringing myself, whatever the fuck that means. I ain't really into the weird shit either, but the delusion and denial, man, it's off the fucking charts with these MAGA types. And yeah, I understand it's bots and, it's not even necessarily real. Bot farms and agendas. Yeah, I get that. But some of it's, some of it's real, even if only influence. But it's like, I don't know, man, the Secretary of the Treasury or Jim Norton, it's like, if you got two men married to men, I'm not trying to get graphic, but if they, in the bedroom, their partner has a dick and balls, but one of them goes around their daily life dressed like a woman and one goes around the daily life dressed like a man. I don't know, man. What's the fucking difference? Like, you tell me. Like, is there any difference? Is one preferable and one's not preferable? Is it equally disgusting? I mean, maybe it is. Okay, well, the big hero savior Trump has no problem with it. A man married to a man, apparently. So why is it all of a sudden disgusting and weird and strange when Jim Norton does it? Why is it okay in one scenario and not okay in the other? I don't know. What are we doing? Who cares? And my thing is, I'm not involved in any of it, but like, I just don't. What's the point? I just don't understand the point of focusing on it, because we're not focused on the Secretary of the Treasury bedroom. Why are we focused on Jim Norton's bedroom? Or is it a recognition that, we can't really do anything about dear leader Trump and who he chooses to have work for the government, but, Jim Norton, maybe he can be mocked and ridiculed and shown the error of his ways. Is that what it is? Or we just don't like the idea of a man dressed up like a woman? And now we're getting into repression already. It's like, well, I mean, some people scared they might get fooled. Are they scared they might get fooled enough to like it, right? To accidentally figure out they like it? I don't fucking know. I know we got off the charts levels of repressed homosexuality in the so-called truth community. And there's a lot of it on the so-called right. Not that that's even a thing. A lot of it. A lot of closeted homosexuals. Meanwhile, most people accept gay men, just accept yeah, there's gay dudes, and it's more or less a thing. You know, so Christians, churches, there's people openly gay at times. Some churches now have pastors or preachers. That's not even supposed to be allowed, I think. Again, I don't have a dog in that hunt, but just, I don't know, man. I just don't get it. I really don't. Now, the one thing about the trans part of it is, that's an insane person, right? And I've had multiple trans friends, and they're fucking crazy. It is what it is. Now, I'm not saying 100% of them. I'm saying the ones I've known have been fucking crazy, and which is not always a bad thing necessarily, but they're nuts. And yeah, there's people who aren't trans who are nuts, but the ones I've dealt with are fucking crazy. And are there non-crazy gay dudes? I mean, I guess. I'm presuming Scott Besson isn't insane, so maybe that's the difference. One's crazy and one's potentially not crazy. One's almost certain to be out of their fucking minds. Another one might be sane. If that makes sense. On the other hand. And then again, as we know, chaos is that's the feminine energy, the yin. And, the masculine order is the masculine energy, the yang. People think they're Bible believing Christians. It's like, there's a whole bunch of stuff you can't do. So I don't know what to tell you. It's like people think they can get divorces, cheat on their wives, cheat on their husbands. Biblical marriage is a man puts his penis in a virgin and now that's his wife. I think we've all forgotten that part of things. And now she's off limits for everybody else. Supposedly in the Bible days, it was a death penalty for adultery, supposedly. But the man, and I'm not saying that a man should or shouldn't have multiple wives, but apparently the man could just go around deflowering virgins, as long as I guess he did it in a socially acceptable manner. And just have a bunch of wives. Then I guess you get into social standing and reputation, maybe some obligation to pay their way and the family of the bride and dowries, all nonsense. Who even knows? Guess I better find a place to pull over for my last restroom break before we get to the receiver. Then go make that delivery. Then go to the cross dock. Then figure out our next whatever the hell we're supposed to be doing after that. Well, I guess then we go get loaded, and then I guess at that point I'll just be like, hey, where am I? What am I doing now? I'll be talked to like it's up and I'm a fucking idiot. That's one thing I've noticed about there's a cultural bullshit artistry to the Eastern Europeans. And part of that is just sort of to just kind of a being very confident about one's own bullshit, and then just sort of, I guess, kind of expecting that in return. So, anybody that's got a question is sort of just treated as if it has to be obvious and everybody knows everything, because we just bullshit our way through everything anyway. So if a person's bullshitting their way through all scenarios, it's like, well, when is it the time for me to just go, hey, I'm just asking because I don't fucking know? Well, within a culture of bullshit artistry, I mean, that moment never comes, right? Because my dispatcher said a bunch of stuff to me yesterday that just, number one, could not have been, it just wasn't possibly correct. And if he'd have been thinking, would have known this if he had thought about it. And then it's like, I'm getting treated like I'm an idiot for questioning it. And I'm just like, hey, man, I'm just asking because I don't know. And I'm easily confused, and I want to make sure I do the right thing. But it turned out I was right and he was wrong. It's like, all right, well, whatever. But why am I figuring this out on the fly? And he's confidently, with this bullshit artistry, telling me the fucking lay of the land. Like, what is this? It's crazy, man. It's fucking clown shoes. But, most people believe Trump done fixed trucking, so I guess I'm just imagining the entire thing. I guess I'm imagining the entire thing. Oh, and I sat on my new glasses last night. That was fun. They thankfully they're built rugged enough. The hinges stood up to me bending them back. In a way, it's kind of preferable because they got a little more slack in them now. But it kind of fit a little better in a way, but they're angled a little different now. I mean, it'll be fine unless I sit on them again like a bozo. It's the first time I've done something to my glasses when I wasn't drunk, though. And I don't drink anymore for the most part. I got them good too, man. Full fucking weight of my full 150 pounds right onto them with momentum. Fuck. Oh well. Oh well. Guess you should have got the 2 pairs, but I don't need 2 pairs. I think I don't need 2 pairs of glasses. I'll just tear the first pair up even faster, probably. If I know I got a spare, right? Too much of a drop off. Trying to figure out where to stop. The road is in such bad shape. These drop offs on this fucking shoulder of these on ramps and off ramps, it's so steep it tears the tires up if you try to drive onto the other side of them. And you cross back over. I ain't really into that. Well, that was a waste of time. Nowhere to stop. Oh well, we tried. Better luck next time. It's one thing to have chunks taken out of the drive tires, but I hate driving around with steer tires, fucking chunks out of the tread. Hate that shit. So we're gonna try to avoid it. At some point, I got to get some air in my tires. You would think all of the truck stops would have air, but they don't. Some of them have it out the pumps. A lot of them don't. And if you ask them, I'm sure they'll say, yeah, we used to. And they got tore up so much, whoever's in charge just finally got sick of having it replaced. They keep tearing the hoses up. But it's like, yeah, I get it. But it's like, you think if they have an on-site shop, you think there would just be air over there somewhere. There's not, typically. So, that's one thing about this idea of people romanticize truck driving and, oh, my grandfather was a truck driver and all this. It's like, yeah, when your grandfather pulled into the motherfucking truck stop, a team of people jumped out apparently and almost fist fought each other for the right to put air in your grandfather's tires. It's like, I'm going like a white nigger coolie style, and I don't mean in a racial context, from truck stop to truck stop, hoping that there'll be air available while I'm there, while I have time to actually put air in the tires. While your grandpa's in there, he's in the diner, fucking smacking the waitress on the ass, and having a proper American breakfast. And maybe one of the kids that's attending to the rig will get to, maybe he's going to be a trucker, so he'll get to back it into a spot or whatever. Them days is long gone, never to return. That shit ain't coming back. Never, ever, never. Not to this country, anyway. Maybe Mexico. Probably not even there. Well, we got to stop somewhere. I can't hold this all the way there. I'm too old. We're about to be in traffic here shortly. I hate stopping on the fucking shoulder. I hate it. I think there's a truck stop up here, but yeah, there is. That bitch is going to be jam-packed. And it's a Love's, even worse. Oh, there's a Quick Trip across the street. Might be able to get in and out of the Quick Trip. Maybe. I guess that's the move. Go to the Quick Trip. Love's fucking sucks because for some reason most of these truckers are having a love affair with Love's, and if it's peak time, man, it's just too fucking busy. Give me the grimy, repugnant Pilot that I can actually get in and out of without getting fucking trapped. All right, here's an exit. We're just going to try our luck. Roll the dice. Have a roll of the dice here. Let's see what this shoulder looks like. Yeah, it looks pretty fucked. Looks pretty fucked. Tis. And she's lively, so I get to sit here and wait to get back on the freeway. I'm seeing all kind of traffic because, of course, this is the time of day when everybody gets out all simultaneously and goes in the same direction together. So I get to just sit here while 100 cars go by, and that's always fun. even though we're still relatively in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, take your time, sir. Take your time. Everybody else is rushing, but that's okay. I like to take my time too. I get it. Now back to nothing. Almost as if that display was solely for my benefit. And that's 30 cars just appeared out of nowhere and descended upon that general area. Now I look back, there's just nothing. It's kind of funny. Kind of funny. Guess we'll just ride the 5 miles to the truck stop exit. I was hoping to get lucky. That's all I'm doing. Exactly. Exactly, sir. Why is that car lollygagging? Because a truck merged onto the interstate. You should be mad. I don't know if y'all could hear that, but a guy romped on his TRK, I guess that is, one of the TRXs. Yeah, TRX. Romped on it. That thing got a Hemi? I guess it does. Supercharged, probably. Yeah. Yeah, why'd that car have to lollygag just because I'm got no TRX's way? For what? Get the fuck out of the way, man. This is America. He might want to go 120 out here. And in America, if you can do the time, you can do the crime. If he feels like he can take the points on his license and pay the fine, maybe explain himself to the judge, he can go 120 out here if he wants to. That's America, damn it. It's supposed to be anyway. Get the fuck out of the way. Oh, but that's right. We got NPC normies want to normalize slow big rigs. Yeah, let's slow down and normalize the speed of a slow truck. That makes a lot of sense. Thanks, normie. You can always count on the normie to normalize anything, any and all phenomena that is not incongruous or incongruous. You can always trust the normie. TRX sound kind of good. I only really like these newer Mustang GTs. I like the sound of them. As far as cars, I actually hear, and that seems to be one of your best bets for somebody with a loud ass car. I think they sound good. Never was really into the Hellcats too much. Even the name I don't like, but and they look like shit. But Mustang's a good looking car. And I've been in a Camaro. You can't see out of those motherfuckers. Like, I'm old, man. I need to be able to see what the fuck's going on. I don't like seating positions all fucked. Mustangs. I couldn't find nothing wrong with Mustang. At least I drove, well, it's about 2017 or 2018. All right, how slow are y'all gonna make me go? Idiots. Not too bad. Only had to slow down to 65 so far. So these bozos can merge. All right, wish me luck. We're taking the exit. We're going to venture off into the quick trip, at least the parking lot, unless we get lucky and the shoulder's in good condition, which it won't be. Shoulder of the off ramp. Now we're in line. Fuck. This blows. This is why we leave early. And, you know, I got a pretty good shot at getting in and out of the quick trip, mainly because everybody goes to the Loves across the street. Yeah. If we ever get to turn. I don't know why there's not a stoplight here. This is crazy. There's one on the other side. Why is there not one here? Now the restop. I love the restop. If y'all noticed on a stop sign, we was all stopped waiting. So if you read the law, it says you have to stop within a certain distance of the stop sign. So if all four of us are inside of that distance, we don't need to stop again to go. But I get to sit here and watch them. It's like, well, okay, why are we restopping? Don't y'all know we're restopping? Is this the entrance? I can't tell because some bozo's parked in the entrance, but I think it is. I think it is. I guess it is. Of course, this car's following me right in here. And I'm going to tell you, man, you could do a study of me driving around and the amount of vehicles that follow me into parking lots. Because the cars have their own separate entrance. People just love, whether I'm in my personal vehicle, which I don't have one right now, they love to follow me into parking lots for some reason. I never have figured that out. It's quite strange. Like, this is not the truck stop in. This is not the car entrance, sir. I mean, I don't care if you come in it, but it's a little strange that you're following me in, but whatever. Whatever. Sometimes when I really get cute and I know that they're just locked in on me and I'm in my car, when I have a car, I'll just randomly go off in some bizarre direction and see how long they'll follow me. Like, sometimes it takes them a while to figure out, oh, wait a minute, he's really just driving off into nothing over there. He's driving off into left field. It's like, yeah, okay, that's one thing, but you're following me off into left field. Isn't that worse? Why am I the one? Why am I the man with the plan? What is this? One time these people followed me in the big rig off of the interstate, and I just could tell. I said, these people have no fucking, they're just following me. They don't know what they're doing. And so I intentionally fucking pulled over on the shoulder of the off ramp and made them go around me. And I just watched them. They had no fucking idea where to go. It was a Love's, and there was like a separate truck parking lot across the street. Next thing I know, they're over there in the truck parking lot in a car driving around in the snow. It's like, what is y'all's purpose? Do you need to go to the bathroom? Like that, the truck stops across the street. Like, what are y'all doing? Are they new to America? Like, none of it made any sense. How do they get through their day? How do they have a car? How do they have money? How do they have clothes to wear? Like, do they have jobs? Are these humans? Are these real people? There's just so many questions. Like, what is this? What even is that? Waking dreams, surrealistic, unreality. Deja vu all over again. But yeah, we managed to do our business. So on the proverbial road again. See what the traffic does to us. course, it's the holiday season, so it actually shouldn't be too bad, the traffic. Oh, there's the light. We're going to get there right as she changes. So we're going to do maximum time at this light, whatever that is. It's red, so we're not there yet. So it's not quite maximum torture, but let's see. I don't think this one's too long, though, going from memory. What's out here? We got a King Supers, Taco Bell, Carl's Jr., McDonald's, of course, Tractor Supply, Love's, Quick Trip with a truck parking, and something down the road, but I can't tell what that is. It doesn't look like it's retail. There's a sign that says business district, so I don't know. Oh, good. We got the light already. All right. Boy, howdy. Here we go. Now we got four-wheelers who aren't going to know what to do. Yeah, you figured it out. Y'all must be from around here. Awesome. Or maybe they're just in a hurry. They actually got the fuck out of my way. Good job. The Love's actually not that busy. If I had a little more time and actually needed some fuel, I probably would have went ahead and got some fuel. Or air. We don't have enough time to air the tires up, though. I bet you they got air at that one. I bet they do. Yeah, it's holidays. That's what it is. There'd be trucks. That whole parking lot would be full. Yeah, it's the holidays. And now, because of how StreamYard works, I'm left to look at this comment, even though it's not on the YouTube chat. Alex Stein is a bootlicking cuck. Like, who even? I'm confused as to who even uses that term, right? Because I'm retired, but back when I was involved in, dating, relationships, women, all of these things, that there's a percentage of men that just, there's zero possibility that they would ever enter into that world, right? Now, some guys would knowingly or unknowingly be involved in the cuckold side of things. That was never my style. I mean, as far as actually, the bull side of things, whether the so-called cuck is there or not, just the sickness of that. And it's porn driven, right? It's porn driven. The actual definition of the term doesn't have anything to do with the sexual fetish side of things. It's the husband. It's a man and a woman. It's a husband who's typically his wife is cheating on him. She's cucking him, so-called, or she's making him into a cuckold by potentially being impregnated by another man, who then presumably the husband could perhaps not understand that that's not his genetic offspring. That's the whole point of the term, right? I used to go in public with my father, and at least a few times a year, somebody would just take a look at him and take a look at me and basically be like, make some kind of joke about how we obviously are related. I look just like my dad, or at least I used to. When he was still what would be considered a young man, when he was 40 and I was 20. I mean, and he looked young. So it's like, are they brothers, or is the older one the dad, right? And I always look way younger than my age, so I don't think it was really brothers. So, most likely there's no version of me knocking some broad up. She has a kid, and it's like, I'm pretty sure I'm going to know it's mine or not visually. Like, that's the actual point of getting impregnated by somebody like me, is to make a male child that looks like me. It's the whole point. So that's why I look like my dad, because genetically, from the perspective of my mother's biology, that was the entire point of them getting together from her perspective. Whether she knows it or not, that's what her body was doing. So let's make a male who looks like that. Some reasonable facsimile of that, pointing at my father. Because my dad, when I was 35, if I was in a grocery store with my dad, more often than not, a woman would walk up and just start talking to my dad. And sometimes she was my age. It's like, all right, well, I guess I could be threatened or offended by this, but I've always done okay with the ladies, so really no point. And, don't hate the player, hate the game, right? It's like, all right, there he is. Chat him up. I don't know, whatever. Like, yeah, now 5'9" Benton ain't quite got it like that. Got a little bit of it, a little bit. But I finally filled my face out enough recently. I've been able to absorb enough calories from my food. I've gotten healed up enough, and my appetite's returned enough to where my face is filled back out. I'm not. It's kind of sad, man. It's this idea of living in a society, and this idea of proper society, and then what have been the effects of social media on people? Well, one of the effects is my looks facially really were neither here nor there generally. And then at a certain point, I can just tell I was getting all this female attention, and it's almost entirely based on all these women are experts in their own social media, and she can look at me and she knows what her social media looks like, and she knows if she can get my face on her social media, that's good for her. And I'm like having these bizarre interactions, and it's like, I just want to be left alone. And now that my face is filling back out, that still happens, but it doesn't happen near as much. This is going to sound however it's going to sound, because I weighed about $120 because out of this illness, I was at about 120 pounds. And yeah, I may only be 5'9", but I'm a fairly, I'm like medium frame. I'm, decent. Yeah, I got size 12 shoes, and I've got gigantic hands. I'm not broad shouldered, but big ankles but small wrists. It's a weird combination of big fella and little fella, but sturdy at the hips and kind of a little thin at the shoulders. But either way, but literal hand size of an NFL quarterback, literally, and size 12 shoes. But whatever my face looks like when I weigh 120 pounds, I guess is whatever a lot of these broads think will look good on their social media. I've had 3 of them at a time following me around the fucking super center. It's just like, what is this? Could y'all please get away from me? This is fucking weird. And the last time, I finally figured out what's going on at the Whole Foods. It's a bunch of sex addicts in there. I was in Indianapolis, 8:30, 8:45 a.m. They open at 8. Sunday morning, city folk, downtown. These people, most of them live downtown. Fucking getting cruised, man. A man and a woman cruising me at the same time. I'm like, I stared the woman down. I was just like, I'm over this. I just stood there and stared at her till she left. And then, but I finally figured it out. I think it's sex addicts. Because who the hell else is in there shopping at City folks ain't shopping at the Whole Foods in downtown Indianapolis. It's just they're not in there. It's just the place is a ghost town. The staff, some of the workers, might have checked me out when I walked. But yeah, I'm checking them out too, right? Whatever. Like we all do that. We all do versions of that. That's normal. Get a look, keep it moving. Oh, okay. I see you. You see me. Great. Have a nice day. Thank you. Maybe, all right. I see you. You see me. Moving on. This was just actively fucking cruising my ass. Sex addicts. And then this Silver Lake Whole Foods in LA, that's more of a just unfortunate desperation. That's more likely to be closer to 10 a.m. by the time I get my happy ass in there because of my normal routine would kind of bleed over. It's not like I went every day. Hell, it's a 5-mile walk, I think. There'd just be some desperate, 30 to 55-year-old women just, and, maybe wanting some attention or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, lady, the days of me being able to just sort of have a cutesy fucking flirty moment, like I'm able to do that, but y'all ain't really free to do that. Well, bitch, I'm homeless. I have a Southern accent. Do I really need to open my yap and inflict my Southern accent on everybody in the Silver Lake Whole Foods? Can I just whatever the fuck I need to grab and get the fuck out of here? Pretty please with sugar on top. Or standing in line when it's busy, God forbid. It's like spiritually attacked. Bitch tries to route me to the self-checkout because I'm in line for the regular checkout. Meanwhile, there's 20 of us standing there waiting to check out. Why am I the one person she tries to tell where to go? Number one. And it's not 20, but I'm exaggerating. 8 people standing there waiting. And yeah, maybe I only have 2 items. Bitch, I'm paying cash. If I listen to her stupid ass, the next thing you know, here I am at the self-checkout. And they're like, oops, it doesn't take cash. Oh, yeah, maybe that's why I was standing over there waiting for the regular line. And if I listened to you bozos, I'd be over here being told they don't take cash. It's almost like I know what I'm doing. What is this? I said that one day. I just said, it's almost, you'd almost think I know what I'm doing in here. Said rhetorically to nobody and everybody in particular. It's almost like I got some clue what's going on here, in spite of my, and what's left unsaid is like in spite of my ridiculous, absurd masculinity, my accent that now everybody's heard, the connotations with conservatism, right? Like, well, wait a minute. Power outages. What's going on here? Has there been weather? Sign said power outages expected across Front Range. I'm not even sure what that is, but it said treat dark signals as 4-way stop. All right, well, whatever. And I know it seems counterintuitive to much of middle America, but one advantage of city folk, we got a greater than average chance of, if we do encounter these scenarios, whoever else is on the road might actually have half a brain. Might have half a brain compared to the middle America folks who may not know what to do in such an unexpected scenario. Anyway, I'm out of here. We're almost there. Thanks for listening. Bye.